Hello and welcome to the Farmhouse at Lancaster Farming. I'm Stephanie Spiker.
I'm Candace Worsbowski.
And today we are talking to Lolly Lesher, who is a dairy farmer in Berks County, Pennsylvania. Her and her family own and operate Way-Har Farm and also Way-Har Farm Market. And Lolly is also the first female chair of the Pennsylvania Dairy Promotion Program. So, Candace, I know you recently tried some of Lolly's product, not hers really, but her cow's product at the farm show.
I did. I had some chocolate milk from Way-Har, and it was awesome. So I'm excited to hear about the operation, about the market. I've never been there personally, but now I think I really have to make a trip out there.
I would highly recommend it. I have been there, and I'm a fan. So let's talk to Lolly and see what it's all about.
Lolly Lesher, welcome to the farmhouse.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
We're so happy to have you here. So we're going to start off with our first question, and we ask all of our guests the same first question, and that is, did you always want to work in agriculture?
Yes, I did from a very early age. I grew up on a small farm in Huntington County, Pennsylvania. We had a fruit farm and dairy cows, and I was very excited to be part of the dairy industry and always knew that that's what I wanted to do, was to be part of agriculture and an advocate for agriculture.
Nice.
Wonderful.
So I already actually know a little bit about Way-Har Farms in the store because I grew up getting ice cream at your store every summer with my dad. But for our listeners who have never heard of Way-Har Farm, can you just tell us a little bit about the farm and the store?
Sure. So the family has always dairy farmed. I married into the Lesher family, but my husband and I have been married 34 years now. And his family has always dairy farmed, going back 8-9 generations. And then in 1970, his father, Wayne, and my husband's uncle, Harold, went together to create Way-Har Farm Market. And we are fully integrated dairy operation. So we milk the cows, we bottle them our own milk and put it and sell it in our own retail store. And we also have a wholesale distribution center route as well. So not only do we do the on-farm work with the cattle and the land and the water and those resources, but we also sell our products to consumers every day in our farm market.
Yeah, that's very cool. I know we wrote about your farm in Lancaster Farming a couple times in the past, and I was reading one of the older articles, and in it you talked about some of the different technologies that you guys have incorporated on the farm, things like a feeding robot and what you called like Fitbit for cows. So for you guys, what is the importance of embracing technology at your farm?
So we are very, very fortunate. We have 4 children. 3 of the 4 are farming with us. Our 4th daughter is living in Wisconsin, part of the dairy industry out there. And so, to keep the younger generations engaged, I think is important to use technology because they grew up around it. And it does make efficiency so much easier and more effective. So we've been able to use the Fitbits to monitor herd health, or they're an SCR collar system, but when I have farm tours of legislators or school kids or whoever, we talk about Fitbits because that's something that they can relate to and understand. And yes, we have a robotic feed pusher. In the dairy store, we have the point of sale systems now, and just different ways that we can use technology to have better data, to make better decisions, and to make life a little more efficient, because it seems like every day we're running a little bit faster. And to keep up with consumers, we want to be able to talk about all the great things we do, and technology is a part of that.
Great. I'm so glad you kind of went into what the Fitbit for cows is, because it does conjure up some really delightful mental images of cows running around with little Fitbits. I was just wondering, for people who might be listening and who aren't as familiar with that kind of technology, could you just explain it a little more, what it is, what it looks like, and what you get out of it as a farming operator?
Sure. So the Fitbits are individual for each individual animal on the farm. So we start ours basically when they become a breeding age heifer. They get their first, now we use ear tags. It's a button right in the ear. It can be scanned with the RFID scanner, and it's a Wi-Fi based system. The older cows that have been with us for a while have collars. They've downsized. They went from a more of a bracelet collar system to more of an ear tag, but that tells us how many steps they take. That tells us about their rumination. It tells us about their activity, so that we can tell by variations from their normal if they're feeling sick or they're coming into estrus or heat cycles. Gives us a way to monitor the health, because we're milking about 260 cows right now, and that's a lot. Not as massive as some other farms, and not as bigger than other farms and smaller than others. But this is another way to have an extra set of eyes on each individual cow every day to make sure that we are doing the best we can to keep them all healthy and comfortable.
That's fascinating. I like the idea of cows having to get their steps in.
Yeah, it's the same thing as we do. We want them, our cows go outside from one barn, they walk outside and come down to the milking parlor. So they get fresh air every day. They're outside every day. They get, a little bit more exercise than some other herds. And it works really well for us. And this helps us, make sure that they're in good hands.
So between, the farm and the store, what aspect of operating Way-Har Farms is your favorite?
I love working with our consumers. I really, every day I get to the dairy store, I have a chance to interact and talk with consumers. We always personally thank them for stopping, because they chose to spend their money in our dairy store. They didn't have to. So we always go out of our way to thank them for coming and explain, that we're just a small family farm, trying to support our family and the community. So I enjoy talking. It's always fascinating, the questions that they have, or they'll say, what's going on at the farm? I said, well, we had 2 calves born today, or, we shipped this much milk this week to the dairy. And interacting with consumers is probably the best part, and also the worst part at times, because sometimes it can be a little foolish. I still get people walking in wanting to buy an almond beverage, insisting it's just milk that's been flavored with an almond extract. So we actually have, or had in the past, have a side panel of almond breeze to show them all the ingredients of what they're drinking if they would choose that beverage option. So sometimes you have to work some education. Sometimes it's kind of rhetorical, but every day is just a different adventure. And then of course working with the employees, and we have awesome employees. We are very blessed to have a great team at the farm and at the store to help make Way-Har run, because our family could never do this alone.
Yeah, that's awesome. As I mentioned, I have been to the farm market pretty many times as a kid and as an adult to get ice cream, and I always have the hardest time making a decision on what flavor I want, because you guys have so many flavor options and they're all pretty unique and ones you might not find anywhere else. So how do you come up with all of your ice cream flavors, and then what actually goes into kind of creating them?
So we do a couple of different things. I'm not above stealing a great recipe from another ice cream place if we come across something. We do contests in the store about once a year to have consumers or customers design their favorite flavor. If we have an intern working for the summer, every intern always has to design a special flavor of ice cream. Ice cream is such a great product. It's fun to manufacture. It's easy to make. And you can even eat your mistakes. You may never make that exact replicate again, but for the most part, they're all very edible. You may not have hit the mark exactly the way you wanted to with stacking the flavors and all the different inclusions, but it's something we can enjoy. And we do a special thing called designer ice cream flavors. And we had a bride and groom come one time and before the wedding, and they designed their own flavor of ice cream, and they called it Mint to Be.
Aww.
And they made that ice cream, and then we froze it, and then we took it and served it as one of the desserts at their wedding reception. And again, it was just a way to interact with consumers, that they had something very unique that they could talk about. experience with because they were big ice cream fans. So we try to do a lot with consumers that way, interacting with them. And ice cream for breakfast Saturday is coming up February 3rd. So we're working on our menu for that. And yeah, there's just a lot of fun things you can do with ice cream, and always come up with new ideas and suggestions. But we have to keep the standards: the raspberry, the tea berry, chocolate marshmallow. They'll never go away. That's why we have about 90 different flavors.
Oh
All
my
right.
gosh,
Well,
90.
I was going to say, first of all, I love the idea of we're finally granting ourselves permission to have ice cream for breakfast.
I will
I
eat
am
ice
very
cream
much on board for
anytime.
that.
Any time of day.
And secondly, I love the idea of having a bespoke ice cream flavor at your wedding. I've been to weddings where they've done, there's always like the craft cocktail for the couple. And then I've even been to weddings where they have had a local brewery do a special beer for the couple. But I've never been to one with a special ice cream flavor, and I really, really want to go to one.
Yeah, I love that idea. If I ever get married one day, I might have to do fancy special ice cream for my wedding, Lolly. I'll come and visit you for that.
We'd love to help you. It's fun. It's a great way to kind of warm up as the wedding's coming close, and you create a flavor that means something to both of you, and something to share with your guests that night. Yeah, it's a lot of, like I said, ice cream is a great product. It's fun. It just brings back a lot of very good heartfelt memories.
It's definitely my personal favorite dairy product, but I also like pretty much any dairy product. But so, Lolly, earlier you mentioned that 3 of your 4 kids work on the farm still, which is pretty awesome. And I know in recent times it's been kind of common that kids who grew up on farms either choose that that's not the lifestyle they want for themselves, or maybe they would love to take over, but it's just not like financially in the cards for them. So how have you guys, worked around all of these issues of planning for the next generation with, like 3 kids who want to help and be on the farm?
Well, it's an ongoing process. Those transitions take years, and it's an ongoing communication and discussion. So when we knew our son Josh has his own custom harvest business, and he helps us the rest of the year when he's not running combine. And he's an integral part, does all of he does our feeding, he does all the maintenance work, and all the planting and taking care of our crops and harvesting those. So that's his thing. And when our daughter Jaylene decided to return to the family farm after working for a large farm in New York for several years, we talked about it, and we went from milking 80 cows to 200 and some cows, because we knew we couldn't do that many families with just 80 cows. So we did expand the barn. We expanded the footprint of the herd with that in mind. And then also, luckily, we had the farm market, which gives us another avenue to generate income to help maintain, enough income to hold those many different families and keep them to a lifestyle that's acceptable. Because it is a challenge, and when milk prices flip flop up and down so much, you need to be well versed in planning and how to handle the debt and the payments, and making sure everybody gets paid and has a nice bit of balance between work and income and time off.
Yeah, that's impressive though that you've been able to, kind of figure out and work through transitioning and having multiple generations doing everything.
We're very lucky, and we're not done yet. It's a constant. Matter of fact, we have some meetings coming up here over the winter months with the attorneys. Again, how are we going? What are our next steps? How do we plan this? How do we tax wise? What are our obligations and all that? But you just have to keep talking about it and working at it one step at a time. It's not any one giant step at any one moment. I think it's just those constant trying to look forward, and how can we make the transition. And our youngest daughter is a nursing student, so she always tells us she's going to nurse 3 days a week and farm the other 4. So, and she'll be an integral part of the business when she gets done with nursing school.
She's going to be a busy girl.
Yeah.
They all are, everybody,
Yeah.
whether they work full time on the farm or whatever, a lot of farm wives I know have always worked off the farm and helped on the farm. So it's a balance.
All right, well, from here, we're going to dive into some of your work with the Pennsylvania Dairy Promotion Program. For those who don't know, Lolly was named the first female chair of the Pennsylvania Dairy Promotion Program. So I wanted to ask, how has the way dairy is promoted changed in the last decade or so, and where do you see dairy promotion going in the next decade?
It's a constant thing. Consumers are so much, in many ways, so much more sophisticated and a lot dumber all at the same time. Um, what they hear, because there's so much out there making impressions on consumers every day, all day long. The good, the bad, and the ugly, right? They get to see it all. So way back when, in the late early 1990s, I worked for Dairy Checkoff as a staff person. And back then we spent a lot of money advertising on the 3 television networks that we had, and that's how we promoted milk. And we did some events, but we did a lot of television advertising. Now you come 40 years later and we're finding there's 7,000 television channels. So how would you get to the audiences? Plus, then you have all the social media and you have all the special events and stuff. So, Checkoff has made some turns and very, very concise, focused, deliberate choices to focus on schools, working on making sure students have cold milk that's good milk. We are limited in what they can serve by the dietary guidelines, but we work to make sure that we're adding yogurt and cheeses and other products into the school lunch program every day, and making sure that that's a good experience, and creating that relationship that we had with the NFL with the Fuel Up to Play 60. Those relationships are important and helped us get to make sure that real milk is on the lunch line and kids are having good before, during, and after school experiences with real milk. We also have turned the corner to realize that 80% of all milk sales happen at the grocery store. So if you think about that, where do we want to talk to consumers? In the grocery store, where they're making that point of purchase, where they are actually spending the money to buy real milk products. So here, Pennsylvania Dairy Promotion Program, working with ADAIN, the American Dairy Association Northeast, has a very focused project to work with retailers on how to sell milk, keep that dairy case clean. What do we have for cheese pushers? How do we present the yogurt? How do we present the cottage cheese and sour cream so that it's clean and well marked and easy to search? And that we've started putting up pictures of the farmers that are the local suppliers of those milk products. So that's another area we emphasize. And I do believe that the experiential experiences, like through social media, where we're YouTubes and videos and that stuff, where we can get to the masses more easily, is another great investment of our time and energy, because advertising to spend $10 million would go up in flames quickly in an advertising campaign on television. Now we can take that money and spread it across retail, schools, and social media and other places to try and make those impacts and make each absolute drop of milk count.
I love that idea. I know at my supermarket, we have the pictures of the farmers right above the milk cartons, so you can see where your milk is coming from, and I enjoy seeing that. I wanted to ask, because I feel like dairy is one of those rare products that it can be promoted and marketed to you your entire life, right? From, by the time you're a baby through the rest of your life, kind of cradle to grave sort of situation. And what have you found is the difference between promoting dairy to kids versus promoting it to adults?
We do know, regardless of age, flavor is the number one impact for why they buy and what they buy. So we need to be cognizant of that. And milk has a great flavor. It has a lot to offer. And then, I think as we look at the baby boomers versus the Gen Z or the Gen X, what do they want? Yogurt, who is so popular, and who would have ever thought that cottage cheese would have the sing-song impact that it's having right now? I don't know if you've followed any of those trends, but cottage cheese sales have gone up by 300% in the last 7 months because of a TikTok that somebody had about how much they loved cottage cheese.
Yeah, I have seen a lot of people on TikTok adding cottage cheese to different recipes, and I'm like, I don't know where this came from, but now I know.
It was another TikTok, and it's influencing. Some of those influencers really do speak volumes and have huge followings. And and what's nice is that if it's a great thing and it works well and it tastes good, they'll follow through with it. We do also know that it can boomerang back against us, so you have to be cautious. But I think marketing across the generations, focusing on the whole value of milk, because regardless of your age, regardless of your stage of life, everybody needs calcium and phosphorus and protein for a healthy diet and healthy lifestyle. And so that's where we can continue to focus across the generations to the value of real milk.
So, in addition to the promotion work you do with kids and adults and just through the dairy promotion, I know you've also gone to Washington, D.C. to lobby for the dairy industry. So, what is it actually like going and testifying before Congress about something you're passionate about? And did you feel like, the legislators were receptive to hearing the concerns of the dairy industry?
Thank you for that question, because it was a very interesting experience. When I testified before the Senate or the House Ag Committee last June, we talked about the dairy industry and the needs of farmers. And I got more questions than the quote experts, than the economists or the professors from the representatives in the room. And I thought that showed their sincere interest to hear from those of us in the trenches working.
Right, like going straight to the source.
Right. I always tell my friends, oh, I don't know why you do all this. I said, because if I don't tell our story, somebody else is going to tell a story, and it may not be as accurate. And I think farmers need to develop that personal relationship with their local legislators, whether it be, their senator, their congressman, their local state representative, their local state senator, because they do make decisions frequently that impact how we operate as a family farm. And we need to make our understanding and what we do understood by those leaders. And they have always been very receptive. And I make it a point, when our Representative Muser was elected Congressman Muser was elected, we invited him to the farm. I wanted him to meet my family, my children that are taking over, and ourselves and our cows, and see what we do, because they needed that firsthand experience. And now his staff will call me on occasion with a question. Hey, we just saw this legislation come across. Can you tell us something? And we can't leave it up to the paid lobbyists, because that's just not who we are. Dairy farmers need to have their own voice and spend some time expressing their concerns and what we're doing right, and how we need credit for what we're doing in the greenhouse gas thing, how we're working on the water quality issues, that we need credit for those, and not always being criticized for, just the farmers are the ones creating so much pollution. We know that's not the case, but we need to be able to share what we are doing with those people, so they're not so easily swayed.
Like you said, if you don't tell your own story, someone's going to tell a story. And I know there's certainly a lot of stories out there being told about the dairy industry, and some of them more truthful than others. So I wanted to ask, what's a common misconception about dairy or the dairy industry that you'd like to set the record straight on?
Oh, there's a couple. The first one that always comes to mind is the fact that whole milk is not full of whole fat. Whole milk is 3.25% or 97% fat free. That phrase whole milk has been a misnomer for the industry. And so we need people to understand that when they're drinking whole milk, it's not loaded with fat. I get customers in here all the time in our farm market. I wish whole milk didn't have so much fat in it. I'm like, it's 97% fat free. What do you mean? I'm like, yeah, honest. We're not talking about big amounts here. So I think that's one thing I wish consumers would understand, and that fat that is in the milk is a good fat. It's what your body needs for brain development, needs for good muscle functions, all those things. It truly is nature's most nearly perfect food. And then I think the other thing I would work on is animal care and land stewardship, because every day that we're out working with our cows or planting fields, we're thinking about how can we do this for the best of not just our family, but the people living downstream. And we want to take good care of the soil and the water, because we want to be back next year and the next year and the next year. So we've got to make good decisions and use the right tools to take good care of our land and the water. And I think people have a tendency to think that we don't care about any of those things, that we just burn it up and think, we don't worry about the consequences. And that's not true. Like, we're continuing our education at classes for pesticide management, herbicide management, our core credits, our category credits, all those things that we try to do to make sure that we are well versed and doing the best that we can, and hire so many experts to help us teach us what to do and in what ways that it makes it most appropriate.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, like, as you kind of said, if you're not properly taking care of your animals or your land, you're not going to have a farm to take care of anymore if you're not taking care of what you already have. So, yeah, I think it's a really good point to share with people.
So, this is a podcast where we are spotlighting women in ag. So I wanted to ask, what's your experience been like regarding women in the dairy industry? Have you found there's a sense of camaraderie? Do you feel it's a supportive industry for women?
Absolutely. I mean, I've been working on boards and associations and committees forever, since I left college. And there were a lot of times I was the only female in the room. Never bothered me. I never really thought about it in those terms. But when I spoke up, I was always listened to. My comments were always appreciated. We could have good discussion. I never felt like I was an outcast or looked down upon just because I was the only female in the room. And I think that's cute, because most farmers realize their female partners are an active partner. We all make good decisions. We all participate. We all understand. And so I think agriculture in some ways is a little more female leadership oriented than some other industries, because we've always had so many great female leaders in the past. But, I don't see any obstacles for my children, my daughters, to go out and make the impact that they want to make in whatever field they choose because of them being female. I think that they'll be listened to and respected.
That's awesome. So that actually wraps up most of our questions. We always end, though, our interviews with the same question for everyone as well. And it ties a little bit into what we were just talking about in the last question. So what does being a woman in ag mean to you?
I am very fortunate. I get a chance to work with the Fill a Glass with Hope campaign, which addresses hunger for children, families in our society. And as a mother and as a dairy farmer, it is my tendency, my nature to nurture. And I find that the idea that we have people in Pennsylvania, United States, that are hungry is absolutely appalling. And as a mother, as a female in agriculture, we need to do a better job of making sure the people around us, because there's plenty of food. We manufacture the best food. We grow the best products, the safest products in the world. There is absolutely no reason why we should have families hungry in Pennsylvania or near us in the United States. And I think we will see more of those issues being addressed, because those issues maybe are more forethought on the female side, on the nurturing, mothering side. But being a female in agriculture is an exciting time, just like for anybody, because I think we have the opportunity and the respect of the general population. For the most part, they feel farmers are hardworking and truthful. So we need to take that status and use it to expand our voice and share our real stories. And as a mother and as a farmer, there's lots that we can share that people can relate to and would appreciate hearing firsthand. And I wish more women could speak up.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, that's what we're kind of trying to do here at the farmhouse, is give women in ag, a platform where they can speak and tell their own stories. So, Lolly, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, it's been a pleasure chatting with you.
Well, I appreciate it very much. And I look forward to following along and hearing what else other ladies have to say.
That was awesome getting to talk to Lolly. I loved hearing about Way-Har and everything they do. I loved hearing about her experience promoting dairy and getting to talk to lawmakers about it. But I also really liked hearing all about the ice cream at Way-Har Farm, because yes. I'm a big ice cream fan. Steph, I know you are too.
Very much so.
Do you have a favorite flavor?
Oh, that's such a tough one. Well, here's the thing. I've been going to Way-Har pretty much every year since I was a little kid. My dad used to work not far from where their farm market is, And in the summer times when my sister and I were off from school, we would go into work with Dad, and he would oftentimes take us for ice cream. And as Lolly was saying, they have like 90 flavors. So I could never pick a favorite. I have never gone to Way-Har and ordered an ice cream flavor that I didn't like. They're all so good.
Oh, wow. Do you have a favorite flavor just in general? Like if you're at the store, maybe not just Way-Har?
I'm a chocolate girl. I also really love like a Moose Tracks vibe.
Oh, yeah.
So do you have a favorite?
I am always caught between something that is as close to a Reese's peanut butter cup as possible, or I love salted caramel.
Nice.
So I'm always drawn to those two. I've never been to Way-Har. I definitely want to get out there. My family's kind of go-to homemade ice cream place is Plum Creek in Burnville. And
it's funny you say that because that's like right down the road. Actually, it's
I
very
know,
close
they're
to
very
Way-Har,
close.
so you can make it. You can find it. You're not far away.
I know. They also have like a huge like list of ice creams, and I'm always tempted to just start like at the top and just work my way through them, because you can never have enough ice cream.
I agree. Can't go
Apparently for
wrong.
breakfast now too.
Oh yeah, I would eat ice cream for breakfast. I don't think there's a problem with that at all. So
No, there's no time too early.
no shame.
So in other news about women on farms, tonight, February 1st, is the premiere of the second season of Farmer Wants a Wife. And if you're not excited, you should be, because it is highly entertaining, and we cover it every week on LancasterFarming.com. So if you watch the show and then click over to LancasterFarming.com sometime, probably Friday afternoon, you'll get to hear Steph, myself, and a few other of our colleagues, all of our opinions about the episode that just aired. And we always have a lot of opinions about what goes on that show.
We already have opinions before it's even aired on the farmers and who's our favorite and who we think might just be there for their 15 minutes of fame and all sorts of. We already have a lot of thoughts. So there's already a preview article up on the site if you want to. You want to catch up on what we're thinking before the show airs tonight. But yeah, it's a fun time to just watch the show and kind of get to critique and observe everything going on. So
Okay, that wraps up this episode. If you have any thoughts or anything you'd like to share with us, you can always email us at FarmHouse@LancasterFarming.com.
thank you all so much for listening. I'm Stephanie,
And I'm Candace.
and this is the Farmhouse by Lancaster Farming, and we'll chat with you next week.
Bye.
This episode of The Farmhouse is copyright 2024 by Lancaster Farming Newspaper, part of the Steinman Communications family.
It was written by Stephanie Spiker and Candace Worsbowski and produced by Eric Herlock. The music you are currently enjoying is courtesy of Tin Bird Shadow.